What's going on, people, and welcome back to Game Week 19 recap and Game Week 20 team. Plus, I played my wild card, so let's get into it. As you can see from my team, finished on 69 points, which was a hell of a lot better than last week for me. Last week I got 33 points, so massive difference, much needed as well, because I haven't had a high scoring points total for a while now, and probably one of my better totals for the season so far, so I was delighted with it. As you can see, in goal I went with Neto, and obviously they won. They won 3-0 at home against Fulham, a clean sheet, delighted with it, and I think Neto's pretty underrated, to be honest. Good value for money, 9 points. Ben White only got me 1. They lost at home to West Ham 2-0, which was a bit of an upset, but West Ham have shown that they are in pretty good form themselves. Arsenal should be doing better with that game, but only got 1 for White, disappointing. Porro then obviously on the losing side as well against Brighton, but he did grab me an assist and he got me 2 bonus points, played the whole game, so I got 5 for Porro. I'm reasonably happy with that. It was my debut week having him in. I'm pretty happy with it because it was against Brighton away, and even though they lost, he'd give me a return, so 5 for Porro. Trippier only got the 1, losing side against Forest for Newcastle, just terrible again, only got me 1. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I viced, and he got me 8, 3 bonus points, did pick up a yellow card though, but he also got a clean sheet, so got me 8 points. Saka only got me 2, obviously in that game, losing to West Ham. He was very quiet, pretty poor game for him. Yeah, not great. He hasn't returned now for about 5 games, so not great. Hwang Hee-chan, again, come up trumps. 14, scored 2 goals, got me 3 bonus points. Only played half the game as well. That's crazy as well. He got an injury, and obviously he's going to be off to the Asia Cup now, which is bad timing for me, because since I've brought him in, he's been fantastic. So, bit sad to see him go on his break, but we can't help it. But he's done tremendous for me since I brought him in, and he got me 14. Foden got me 8, and he's been another one that's been a consistent performer for me and my team most weeks. Got me 1 bonus point, scored a goal as well. Happy with that. John McGinn, pretty decent since I brought him in most weeks. Played 85 minutes, scored a goal as well, even though they were on the losing side. Still got me a return, so 7. Watkins only got me 2, was very disappointing against Manchester United, even though they scored 2 goals. He wasn't heavily involved in the game at all, only got 2. And then Solanke I captained, and obviously he scored a penalty, was on the winning side against Fulham, 3-0 for Bournemouth, played the whole game, 12 points, and continues his fine run of form. And then on the bench then, Flecken got me 0, Anderson got me 1 for Palace, Darwin Nunez I benched, and he got 8, but let's be honest, he never performs on a consistent basis, and because of that, it would have been nice to get the extra 8 points on top of what I got, but I kind of feel like that's being a bit greedy as well. Still happy with my total points. It would have been nice to get them extra 8, but as I said, with Nunez, he's not a consistent performer, so I'm not that disheartened about it because I'm not planning to keep him, and this is the only game week I think I've had since I've had him in that he's returned. And I've had him for a good few game weeks now. And then Palmer obviously didn't play as he was suspended, so he was my 3rd option for the bench. Average for the week for this Game Week 19 for points was 38. I finished on 69. I can't be anything but happy. So, my wild card for this week, I had to play because I hadn't played it yet, and the deadline is this game week now. So I decided to use it. I made 4 changes. As I just spoke about, Nunez is out. He's not been good enough. I don't think he's good enough. I was a big fan of him at Benfica, but he's really not living up to the heights at the moment. So I've took him out, and I've brought in Gabriel Jesus for Arsenal. I feel like they got a pretty decent run of fixtures coming up, and if he can stay fit, he's guaranteed the minutes, whereas Nunez isn't guaranteed all the time. And he's got the form over Nunez. Jesus comes in as my first replacement for Nunez. Second, I've gone with a goalkeeper change, and I've taken out Flecken from Brentford, and I've brought in Vicario for Tottenham. Now, they were on the losing side, but I think Vicario is a safe option. He's a decent keeper. I think he's top 3 keepers in the league. Other than Alisson, he's probably the best keeper in the league. I think that's saying a lot. So, big fan of him. I think he's a big character as well in that Tottenham team, and he's vital to them. So I'm happy to get him in. Been wanting him in for a little while. Vicario. So Vicario for Flecken. Hwang Hee-chan, as I said, I didn't want to get rid of him, but because of them going away for the Asia Cup, I had to take him out, and I've brought in Jared Bowen. I was going to bring in Kudus, but obviously he's off to the African Cup of Nations. So Kudus was my first option, who I wanted to bring in, but I couldn't. So I've brought in Bowen. He returns most weeks, even if they're on the losing side. He's a very consistent player, hardly ever injured as well, and most weeks he's going to give you something. So Bowen, glad to get him in. In the last change, I took out Trippier, who has just been terrible for about 4 or 5 games in a row now. Newcastle haven't been great as a whole, but him individually as well has been a nightmare recently. Taking him out, and I've brought in a bit of a safer option. He's probably not going to get the returns that Trippier gets, but he's getting the minutes. He's Kyle Walker. Safe option for City. He might get rested for 1 game, but I think that'll be it at the most. One of the leaders in the team. I'm happy to get him in. He's probably not going to get the returns that Trippier would get, but Trippier's been awful and hasn't been returning anyway. So Walker, I think, as I said, he's guaranteed a lot of minutes, and he might get the odd assist. And I think that he's a safe bet for a defender for City in one of the top teams. Even though City aren't at full throttle, I'm pretty confident and happy with that, and taking Trippier out. So Walker is in as my final change for Trippier. So game week 20 team, as it stands, I'm keeping Neto in goal. I do have Vicario. They're up against each other in this game. Even though Bournemouth are away for this game, I think they're in better form than Tottenham at the moment. So I feel like they could go to Tottenham and at least get a draw. So I'm going to go with Neto. It's quite tempting to put Vicario in just because they're at home. But as I said, Bournemouth are more in form than Tottenham at the moment. So it's a bit risky, but I'm going to go with Neto in goal. Anderson for Palace keeps his place. They're at home to Brentford. I fancy Palace to get 3 points in that. So Anderson. Pedro Porro keeps his place at home against Bournemouth. It's risky, but even if they're on the losing side, he could get a return. So Porro. Walker makes his debut for me this season at home to Sheffield United against his former team. He'll want to do well, and I feel like City should pretty convincingly get 3 points in that game. And then Trent as my last defender, 4 at the back against Newcastle at home. I've captained Trent as well this week. I expect him to get something in this game. I expect Liverpool to win, and I expect Trent to be heavily involved. Captain's armband is on Trent. And then Bowen making his debut for me against Brighton at home. I feel like he could get a return. So Bowen. Saka away at Fulham. Been disappointing in the last month or so, but hopefully he can kick back into gear. Away to Fulham. John McGinn at home to Burnley for Villa. I fancy Villa to get something in that game. So, and I expect him to be involved. So McGinn. And then the last midfielder, Foden, who I'm going with for vice captaincy this week. At home to Sheffield United. Didn't start the last game, but he came off the bench and scored. I think Pepper put him back in to start for this one. So I'm going to vice him. And even if he comes off the bench, I'm confident that he can get a return still. So vice for Foden. And then the 2 up top, I've gone with Ollie Watkins at home to Burnley. Hopefully he can return because he hasn't for a while. But against Burnley, hopefully he can get back on track. And then Solanke away to Tottenham. He's in, I think, in terms of form in the league, he's probably first place right now. Solanke, for me, even though they're away at Tottenham, I still fancy them to get something from the game. So Solanke is my second striker. On the bench, I've gone with Vicario. First place sub, Jesus, away to Fulham. I'm tempted to put him in as starting, but I don't want to take any of the others out. And I think it could be tricky for Arsenal at Fulham. So I'm going to bench Jesus this week. Palmer away to Luton. Another one I considered putting in, but the way Luton are playing at home, I think that they will beat Chelsea. So, yeah, I've gone with that in mind and I've benched him. Palmer on the bench. And then third place sub, Ben White away to Fulham also. So I do have 3 Arsenal players, but I'm only playing one of them for this because I'm not that confident that on the defensive side that they're going to do a lot. Saka's the most likely to get a return even over Jesus at a 3 at the moment. But I still don't expect them to win the game. So that's my idea. That's my thinking behind it. That is it. That is my team for game week 20, guys, and game week 19 recap. Plus my wildcard play is in action, in motion, set and locked. The game week starts again tomorrow. So let me know yours in the comments, guys. Have you played your wildcard? Have you already used it? If you did play a wildcard this week, let me know in the comments what you did with it. 'Cause I'd be interested to see who you brought in, who you took out. And I'll also be dropping my Premier League predictions today as well, guys. So look out for that at some point today dropping. I'll catch you soon.